This is going to be one of the most advanced videos that I ever put out on this YouTube channel. It took me a couple of days to make. We are going to be integrating ChatGPT-4 in Minecraft. That's right, and I'm not saying just the chat feature. I'm actually going to show you how to make it work so that you can have a fully functional trading system, not just chatting, actually getting the items to you and taking items from your inventory. So let me give you a quick example. I've spawned a pirate. We can see we have a pirate ship, and then it says, "Ahoy mate, how can this old sea dog be of service to you today? How about we trade? I have gold." And sometimes it waits a bit. It has to connect to a server. It can even offer treasure maps. Interesting. How about you give me some emeralds? And you can see that it's actually pretty smart, and you know, it'll stay on the topic, it'll stay in the role, because this one actually defined the role to be a fisherman, so it doesn't have emeralds. Anyways, I would like cooked salmon. No, is that actually material name? I think it's called cooked cod. How many for 2 golds? Let me actually try to push him a little bit higher. How about you give 24? It's actually pretty smart. You can negotiate something out of it. And if you try to push it too high, it can actually reject. Oh, 24. Okay, he actually did not reject it. How about doing something ridiculous? 64. Let's see how far we can push him. And you can of course define, you know, the hardness. The best I can do is 24. Okay. And when you accept the deal, it'll actually give you a choice. There we go. To trade 2 gold ingots for 24 cooked cod. Type agree. I'm gonna do it. And now it's obviously pretty smart. I don't have enough gold in my inventory, so I have to give myself 1 more piece. Let me actually give myself 3 so you can see demo. Type it agree again. There we go. And I've taken the gold and I have cooked cod. The trade was finished. Just a quick note, the backend of OpenAPI uses something called credits, or simply measures your usage. It is extremely cheap, but it's not free. What you can do, what I recommend you do, you simply purchased 5 credits. It's extremely cheap, and you should be able to experiment all day long, because I think 1 call costs something between like 3 cents to the ChatGPT-4, and if you go with ChatGPT-3, then the price is even less. So, you know, don't get discouraged. Don't be like, well, it's a free YouTube video and I have to pay. Don't worry. I think $5, if you want to invest into it, it's gonna yield you probably days of experimenting with this beautiful thing. So I guess that I should start by introducing you to the backend of ChatGPT. I assume that you are already familiar with the front end. That is, if you go to chat.openai.com, right? This is the main interface everybody knows about. However, they have also a developer backend, which is called platform.openai.com. You can use your main ChatGPT account to log in, and this is something that we're going to be actually using. So this one works, I guess, similarly to the front end, but it provides you with more options. And there's also an extensive developer documentation, which you can learn about right here. And by the way, I recommend checking out this opening keynote. It's pretty fantastic. It's pretty, I guess, scary what they are capable of doing. Now, anyways, I'm going to go to Playground and I'm going to select chat. We're going to be using the ChatGPT-4 11.06, which is the, I believe, turbo version, the preview version. And we're just going to be tweaking these parameters a little bit. And then we're going to be basically just setting a context. So you are a trader, pirate, fisherman in Minecraft, something like that. And then the user will be hi. And if I say submit, then the assistant will, you know, start to say things similarly to what you've seen here. So we're going to be taking this, using a library and hooking it up with Minecraft. What's also great is that you can ask it to return your message as a JSON, right? And then if I type in what do you trade, it should return, you see, JSON with a bunch of, I guess, default data, which is really amazing because we can literally program this to return, say, chat types. So what is a chat type? It's just something that I came up with. Basically here, ahoy, R, emerald, right? These are all just messages. However, here, the offer is an offer type. So you can basically tell it to switch from just chatting with you to offering you these items. Now guys, if I'm going too fast, please note that, this is not a beginner necessarily tutorial, because this is one of, as I said, the most advanced videos that I ever put out. There is more stuff that I will show you in the course Project Orient that is also for beginners. And also I have over 40 lessons on Minecraft plugin development on this channel, and I highly suggest you went through at least 5 to 10 first videos before you dive into this one. However, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, and I'll try to reference my other free videos to help you with your coding journey. Great, so that is the interface. Now in Minecraft, what we're going to do, we're going to have to open up our POM XML file. That is if you're using Maven. And don't worry if this is, too much, you don't have this. Just watch my first and second video. So if you go to my YouTube and then you open up the playlist called Minecraft Plugin Development, you'll see down at the bottom, I have episode 1 and episode 2. So make sure you definitely need to watch these two. And you also definitely gonna wanna need the episode 17 about libraries and APIs. These are completely free videos, so please go ahead and watch them right now, because I'll just assume that you have that knowledge. So inside the POM file, we're going to be having to add the ChatGPT Java library. And if you Google OpenAI Java SDK, I believe, then the Theo Canning is the one that we're going to be having to use. This is quite easy. So when it comes to importing this is actually hosted on the main Maven repository, so you should not be needing to add anything right here. I guess that only the Sonatype, you can try without it. If it doesn't work, then add this repository. By the way, I'll post my full source code down below, so you can click the blog post, and inside my blog post you'll be able to download the source code, so you don't have to type letter by letter. Obviously, I don't want you to waste your time. That's the first thing. Then the other thing is you need to copy the dependency right here, and then simply install it just like this one. Now make sure to keep the group ID to whatever they have. The artifact ID, you need to put in service, because we're going to be using the version of library dealing with a service, right? They have API client and service, so make sure to use that. Version is going to be whatever is the latest one. So to find the latest one, I think you can either go to releases and then update to version 0.18.2. Or here's a little trick. So typically you can just copy the title from GitHub, just like this one, and then add space MVN and Google this. This is going to point out to the main Maven repository link, as I explained a couple of minutes ago, right here. And then you can see the service package right here has 1.18, actually 0.2. Let me see. Yeah, that's the same that I have. So you can either go with this, and if you open this up, you can actually just copy the whole dependency with the version right here. So it's a little bit easier. Also make sure to have the scope set to provided, because we're going to be not wanting to ship this. If you have multiple plugins all having this library inside their jar, this can lead to, import conflicts, and there's a way to bypass that. But since Spigot provides us a way to load third-party libraries when starting their server, we're just going to be using their feature. So set the scope to provided, open up the plugin.yml, and then right here, the libraries right here, I think that I teach this in the libraries video. You essentially just want to create the path for Spigot to download the same library into your libraries folder when you start the server. Great. Now, when it comes to the actual implementation, there isn't much thing to it, and I'm going to be showing you how to add a simple command right here, how to add a simple listener when the player is chatting, and then we're going to be storing a list of conversing players with the history of what I have said. Because unfortunately the way it works is that you have to upload the entire conversation history, which with each message is going to get bigger and bigger to the OpenAPI for it to get the context, to get the history of it. So we're going to be using a custom class called conversation to store the data in. It's not that difficult. I already made a AI command right here. I'm not going to show you how to make commands in this video because I already have a free video on making commands. You can check it out on that Minecraft plugin tutorial series, on this tutorial series that you're watching. So basically what this command does, verifies that we are a player. It's going to get the player, and then it's going to verify that we're typing in AI and then the name and then the role. So the name is whatever shows over the head, Peter Plank, and then the role is whatever role we are supposed to be playing with this NPC, because ChatGPT can act, differently. As you noticed, I was trying to get emeralds. However, this is a fisherman that doesn't have emeralds, so you can have different roles for different NPCs. And obviously, this is just a thing of creativity. So I do encourage you to be creative with this, and you don't have to necessarily have roles, but you can have any properties that you want to feed the ChatGPT in. So I have, this simple thing right here, and then I simply extract these two arguments. And then what I do, I simply spawn a skeleton by going into the player's world, spawning it at the exact location and also where I'm looking exactly. So if I type in AI and say test NPC, that's going to be a, prisoner. There we go. If you can see that is being spawned, and it's going to be looking at the exact same position. And also, I'll explain what this is in a second. So that's the first thing. Also make sure to disable gravity, disable AI, so that the NPC doesn't move and doesn't chase you, doesn't try to kill you if it's a hostile skeleton. You can also set it to invulnerable so that you can't kill it. And then you can set the custom name visible, and then set the custom name over the NPC head, like this one, by calling this. In, I believe, a couple of videos back, I've made the colorize method right here. So you can just check the source code. This is very simple. This will convert, these characters into things like this, but also supports hex and RGB colors, which is very cool. And I simply give credits to the original Spigot pull request for the genius guy that coded it. This video, I don't think that I'm using any other common method. We'll see that in a moment. So the next thing I'm getting the equipment, and I'm setting the helmet for whatever I'm holding in my hand, because if you go to a site like minecraft-heads.com and you look for any head that you like, then you can literally just give yourself this item. So I can just copy this whole thing, and then I can open up the server console, give myself this. I don't think that you're able to post this command in the chat because it's way too long. But anyways, I can get a helmet that looks like this. It says Pirate Skull. And then I simply set it such that it's going to be used, it's going to be placed automatically on the NPC, making it look pretty damn cool. So that's just a little bonus that I'm going to throw on you right there. Also, I have to mark the NPC with its name and with its role using persistent data container. Again, I do have a separate video on how that works. In short, we're simply going to be setting invisible tag for the NPC. That is not deleted when the server restarts or stops, because if I were to do set metadata, then this metadata actually gets deleted when I stop or reload the server. The keys right here I don't have, so I just have to paste them right here. And again, I've explained this in a separate video, which is for free on YouTube, which you can watch if you need to rehearse how that works. And looks like I've added something to the command class. Well, basically, I just added the tell method that works with a player, and it's simply a shortcut to be able to send player, hex colored messages. So I'm gonna open up the Spigot class. By the way, I do have another free video here on the Adventure API. If you want to use Adventure instead, please go ahead and watch that instead. But here, I'll just keep it as easy as possible using Spigot. I also made the action bar method right here. So I'm just going to use Spigot again, send message, and then type in chat message type action bar, and then do just the same. There we go. So this one should be working. Now, don't forget, as always, and I see people forget this so much, go to your main plugin class, register this command, beautiful, as well as go to your plugin.yml, and then register the AI command right here. There we go. Name, role, just like this one. Next up, let's implement a listener. Again, I do have a free video on how game events and listeners work, so go ahead and watch that one if you're not sure what implements listener means. So this one is a simple listener. Make sure to register it in the onEnable method. And here we have to listen for a bunch of stuff. So I'm not going to bother you know, with typing letter by letter. I think it's stupid if somebody does that on YouTube and you have to suffer through 5 minutes of them typing. Basically, we're going to be listening when I'm typing in the chat, hello, and then if I'm having a conversation with an NPC, then this chat will be taken away, cancelled, and handled in the NPC chat. When I'm right-clicking an NPC, then we can actually start chatting with it, so that's why I have to listen to when I click something or somebody. When I'm quitting, I'm going to be automatically stopping the player conversation, and then you'll notice that the skeleton actually doesn't burn in the sun. This is just a fun bonus feature that I decided to add for you guys, basically listening to entity combust event. And if my skeleton has the NPC name tag, and I don't know if you can use get, or maybe you can just use has. Yeah, I think this code is going to be even simpler now. There we go. So we can just check if we have the custom tag. If yes, cancel the event. Next up, let's make the conversation object. Basically, we're going to be storing a bunch of data, as I explained earlier, in the custom class called conversation, the data being player, the player that is conversing, the NPC being Minecraft entity, very simple. Then we have the role of the entity, and then we have the actual conversation right here, which, I don't know, you can just use a string builder to make it as easy, or you can use a list, but string builder is even easier. And whatever this is going to do is simply going to hold this entire conversation. So this one is going to be hi, then it's going to be this 2, then it's going to be this 3. So it's going to go like this, right? It'll just expand, expand, expand with the conversation. And as you guessed it, going back to the listener, we have to store players that have an active conversation somewhere. Be sure to open and import this class from the package inside your plugin, not from bukkit. Also import the maps right here. There we go. Now, when it comes to coding standards, I would typically suggest against having data inside your listeners to split your plugin logic. However, this is just a demo video. So, you know, if you're not making a world's greatest plugin and you just follow YouTube tutorials, then this might happen more often than you think. I'm just gonna put a warning here that typically as a high-level developer, this is something that I try to teach in my courses. You should split your coding logic and you should have a listener just listening. You should have the model, the conversation in the model package, just performing logic related to the conversation. And then you should probably have a third class called, say, player database or conversation manager, and inside that third class you can just keep this. Or what I also suggest as like plan B, maybe you can just copy this and then paste it inside the conversation right here, and then you make it static and you simply add the management method such as add and remove, and you have everything nicely inside the conversation class. Cool, so let's begin implementing. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start implementing when I'm chatting. So I'm gonna get the player and I'm trying to get the conversation object by my unique ID. And I'm also gonna get the player's message. So if the conversation is not null, that means that I'm conversing, I'm speaking with an NPC. First of all, I'll just cancel the event so that others will not see this right here on the server. Then if my message has more than one letter, you can see that I typed this letter with a small case. This is just a small convenience, guys. I'm going to uppercase the first letter of the message and then keep the rest as it is. And then I'll open up the conversation model. There's going to be a method called onTalk, which if it returns false, that means that the conversation should stop. So I'll simply stop chatting by removing the player. However, if this returns true, that means that we can keep chatting, and I simply tell the player you, right? And we're going to be seeing our own output, and then the NPC in the meanwhile is gonna think of its next answer. When it comes to implementing the right-click entity, I don't think it's particularly anything special right here. I'm just gonna check if the entity is null. Perhaps this is not needed on the latest Minecraft release, right? So I don't have to. And then here, if we don't have the key, yeah, I can also improve that. Sometimes when I'm coding behind the scenes, I just make the code even longer. So this is the same as we did right here, right? If the right-click entity is not an NPC, I don't care. Also, this event is actually fired twice. If I'm right-clicking, this once fired for the right hand, once for the left hand, and I don't care about the left hand, so I'm just gonna listen for the main hand, not the off hand, which is the left hand. Then I'm gonna get the player, I'm gonna check if we are already conversing, right, and say, hey, you are already speaking with an NPC, type exit or type stop to stop. I believe that I set it to stop. Yeah, there we go, you stopped talking to the prisoner, great. And then we're going to be starting the new conversation for the player and the right-click NPC, there we go. And you can see that the role I get automatically from the NPC. Perhaps as a coding standard, okay, I get it, guys. There's going to be a bunch of comments about coding standards. Maybe it's better not to have an additional logic there. So maybe the string role could be just received from the right-clicked, just like this one. And since we're already using the right-click many times, just like that, then let's just do this entity role, there we go. And then there's going to be a method called conversation start, and then at the end, or maybe even before the conversation starts, I can save this and I can place the conversation inside the conversing players. Great. And then finally, what happens when I stop the game, when I disconnect, I'll simply try to remove myself. And this one will work. This will not throw any errors, even if I am not conversing, because this will fail gracefully. Great, so coming back to the conversation, I have to connect to the OpenAI service, and you can import this from, well, I can't import this, this is weird. If you're having the same issue, then go to your POM file, and then there's supposed to be an icon saying load Maven changes. And sometimes IntelliJ doesn't do that automatically, so you might need to click it. There we go. You don't have to enable any suggestion plugins, I don't care about them. If you can't see the icon, right-click the POM file, go to Maven, and hit reload project right here. And then inside the conversation, there we go, now you should be able to import it from the COM package. I even have my IntelliJ to automatically do it. You can find this option somewhere in import section of your settings, but it's not really that important. Now, first thing when you're creating a new instance of it is putting the OpenAI key. So you can find it inside API keys right here, and I suggest you just make a new secret key, give it a nice name, and then basically make sure to copy this entire thing as K, and then just paste it right here. The second argument is going to be the duration, and I just suggest you put in a 0 there, or maybe you can put in, I don't know, 10. That means how the longest time that we're going to wait for the response. However, I think that it's gonna throw an error if, you know, we go over time, so you're gonna have to have more error handling there. Because in my testing code, I just don't care about it, so I just set it to 0, but maybe it's a good practice to have it to something reasonable, such as 8 seconds, so that players don't wait forever and they think that the NPC is still thinking, when in reality, you know, OpenAI is down or servers are overloaded by way too many people making Minecraft plugins like that. All right, let's go back and let's implement the rest of this conversation class. This is where the magic happens. We're going to start with the start method. Then there is going to be the onTalk method, which you've seen in the listener. Also, I needed to have a custom has enough items method. They'll simply check if I have whatever we agree to trade with in the inventory. This has nothing to do with AI, it's just bucket logic. And then clear trade metadata. That means that when we are switching from just chatting to about to be offered a trade, player is going to have this metadata inserted onto him so that we can differentiate the action. And then there's the process queue method, which is, I guess, the most interesting to all of you guys, which will connect to the API itself. So when it comes to the starting right here, what I decided to do, I decided to start the conversation with this prompt. Now, it's super long prompt. I'm not going to read it for you, but this is something that I just came out with. It also supports replacing the role with this role right here. And you should just ignore IntelliJ complaining. This indeed will work because I have the role right here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pause the video. You can either read it for yourself. Maybe the prompt is not perfect. I'm not a native English speaker, but I try to basically make it return a JSON thing, a JSON response, and the JSON response is going to contain the message type. And then if the message type switches to, I guess, trade, where is that? It'll contain additional information about the actual trade, trying to use valid bucket material names for Spigot. And I know that ChatGPT has a cutoff around 1.17. I know that ChatGPT-4 Turbo is updated up to like April this year, but I still feel more confident just putting 1.17 in there. That's the first thing. Then I'm going to be starting to process the queue. And as you can see, when I'm interacting with the villager, it says starting in the action bar. So this is the action bar message in the process queue that I'll be implementing. So we already have the common action bar method. I can just call it as a demo. And then what I have to do, I have to call the entire connection asynchronously, otherwise it can really lock your server. As you've seen in the intro of this video, sometimes it takes up to like 5 seconds just to get a response. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have a new bucket enable right here as a new anonymous class, and then I'm gonna run it asynchronously using the main plugin as an instance. And I do have a video on how to understand these tasks, so please go ahead and watch that if you struggle with them. And we can also just print out the entire conversation so far, so that you'll be able to see what's going on in the console really nicely. And you can, yeah, you don't even have to call toString here. Okay, are you ready for the magic line? There it is. So we're going to be having to make a new chat completion request, and you'll be very surprised how good this library is. It is extremely simple. Actually, it's way easier than a couple of APIs in Paper itself. Sorry, Paper. But the way we're going to do this is by making a chat completion request builder. And then we're simply going to be putting things here the exactly same way as we're putting inside here. So the model right here, we're going to, you can go show more models and you can just copy this. So the model is right here. Let me actually just order this. Easy peasy, there we go. And then max tokens is going to be the maximum length of the message, and this can go up to 4,000, which is really nice. So we can just copy this too. Then the temperature, this will simply mean how random and how varied these responses are. And if you hover your mouse upon any of these, you'll see an explanation for every single one of them. So I don't really have to spend too much time. You can just hover over this, and you can also just Google examples on how these properties work. There we go. So I guess that the only thing left unexplained is the stop right here. And yeah, the stop sequence is here. So you can also Google this. They have a great article on how that works. Basically, we're going to have the messages being uploaded to API look like this one. So human, my message, and then API like this, and then the AI is supposed to finish this, right? So the stop right here is going to look for human and AI, so that the AI is automatically going to stop providing more response when we feed it more data. It's going to basically prevent it from, I don't know, spinning itself infinitely or race condition. And you can of course try what happens without it. I honestly haven't noticed it going crazy, but I noticed giving it more consistent result when I had this here. And again, you can just Google what that means more. This video is more so about Minecraft plugin development than me explaining AI. I'm not an AI guru, and yeah, this is still a new topic to me, to be honest, just as for everybody else. Great, and final thing, we have messages. This is going to take an array of exactly two messages, so you can just make a new message type. First one being the system, which is this right here, and this one, you are a pirate, role in Minecraft, right? So you can just tell it the context. However, I already explained the context in the conversation starter, and I found the AI to take this extremely well, so we don't really have to be lengthy in here. We can just keep it nice and short. and then the user is finally going to be, the entire conversation that we're having. Now, getting the response is a little bit more tricky. This is going to return a list, so you have to call the OpenAI service. Maybe I can rename it to OpenAI service, make more sense. Create chat completion. We're going to be putting the chat completion request, which basically holds just parameters, and then we can see what we can get. So we can get, the choices, and this will return what the API has returned. Yeah, and I mean, my AI is very smart. It actually tells if the choices are empty, the AI failed to respond. I mean, sure, I can keep that code in there. That was very unexpected. And then we can basically get the first choice, just like this. And then we can get the message inside the response, which is simply chat message. And then we have to get the context of the chat message. A bit complicated. And the context is supposed to be what the AI has said earlier. So this is going to be, I don't know, you can't see it here, but you'll see it in a minute. And then basically the context is going to be the JSON response. So we have to, trim it, delete the trailing and leading white space from it. And then I can simply split it line by line, because I noticed that this will actually return the first line like this, and the second and the last line like that, which basically means markdown if you're using the front-end ChatGPT that is used to format your response. However, now we have to actually get rid of it to parse the proper JSON response. So to do that, I'm simply gonna do an array copy, and I'm gonna basically just clean it, converting basically this array into a new array that is 2 lines shorter, and we're basically just going to be copying from the not 0th index but from the first index, and then we're going to be cutting off the last line as well. So that's how you get rid of the first and the last line. And then what I can do, I can just use a new JSON library that by default Spigot includes, and this helps us to parse the JSON. So you can call new JSON, or you know what guys, maybe, for the coding standards, I can just have this as a private final static JSON field. And then I can call from JSON right here, and then I can simply join the string using, new line delimiter for the library to understand, and then I'll simply parse it into a map. So this one is going to return a hash map with the key status set to success, message saying I'm doing great, blah, blah, blah. So then we can simply get the answer and get the answer to string, because this can be actually a double as well when it comes to the trade amount. And we can also return the type. That means that which conversation type or regime we are currently dealing with. And then we can simply append the answer to the entire conversation stream, as well as tell the answer to the player. Yeah, just like this one. So the test is the name of the NPC, and then this is his answer. And then this conversation right here is going to basically append it to after the AI. So it's going to look like something like this one. Now, you've noticed that I've asked ChatGPT to change the type, the response type, from, I believe, chat, and then when we agree on the trade items, then it's going to set the type to trade. So we can check whichever we are at currently, and if the conversation has switched from, simply going back and forth to actually having agreed on the trade, that means that the type is equal to a trade. Then we can also return the player item, player amount, and then NPC item and NPC amount. Maybe I can just do this for simplicity. And then you have to do a little bit of a handstand to convert that into an integer, because unfortunately this will then return a double for amounts, which is unsupported in Minecraft. As you know, you can't really get 1.5 items. You can only get 1 up to 64 items, right? So we have to convert it into an integer and then get these data from the map as instructed in the initial prompt. And then I can open up Word utils from Apache, and I can simply just make it look nice. Basically, the material is going to look like, I don't know, raw fish. And then here I am simply replacing the underscores, and then this will also capitalize fully, so this will convert this into this. So it's going to look nicely in the chat. Just something to throw out there just to give you guys more value. And then I'll simply tell the player, hey, there's a trade to offer to trade this and your item amount, your item name for whatever NPC offers. And you can either type in agree or stop, or you can simply keep negotiating. How beautiful is that? And then, we can listen to whatever the player types in. However, we have to sort of store the trait data somewhere, and I think that the easiest and the best way to do so is just to use Bukkit's temporary metadata, because they let us store the entire hash map with all of these objects directly, which is really, really beautiful. And this one, of course, gets disabled, removed when I disconnect from the game, but when I disconnect from the game, then the conversation is discarded, so no worries about that. Cool, so now, we basically got to the point where the trade is offered. So what happens if I type in agree now? Well, it's going to be registered in the on-chat message, right? And it's going to be basically processed in the on-talk method right here. So before we implement this, we just have to make sure that the NPC actually is close to the player. If we moved away, more than 10 blocks, I'll just return false. That means that the conversation is done, just to make it more realistic, right? And then I can just clear the trait metadata, which I can implement right now. This will basically just make sure that the player doesn't have an open trait when the conversation is done. Excuse me, I'm right here. Also, when I say stop in the chat or when I say exit, it'll simply end the conversation like this one. And then we will append whatever we typed in. And then we'll basically just append the AI at the end so that the AI has a chance to respond. And then we'll simply process in the queue, taking the entire conversation right here and putting it back to the AI. So this is a basic implementation of basically you chatting back and forth. However, here what we can do, we can simply check if the player has metadata NPC trait. So if we already agreed on the trait, then this should work. And then I simply want to, stop the conversation and simply perform the trait right here. Now, however, we have to listen if I type in agree, and only then we can actually end the trait. So if message equals to agree, right? If I type in something else, you'll notice that it will simply keep chatting, which is really natural. However, here, if I type in agree, then I'll just get the trait map. I can get it right here, actually. There we go. And then I can get basically the same data as we were storing down here. And all of them can be final except for the player amount, which I'll explain in a second. And then we have to check if the player has enough items, right? If we don't have enough of the item of the given amount, I'll simply say, hey, you don't have enough, I don't know, diamond to sell 5 of them, for example. And let's implement has enough items. This method is very easy, just literally deals with the inventory handling. So it iterates through all the slots in the inventory, counts if we find the same material type, and then it'll simply return if this whatever we have in the inventory total is greater or equal how much we need, right? I'm not going to spend too much time explaining basic Bukkit API in this AI video. Also, one method that I forgot to implement simply has free space. That means that we have enough, free space in the inventory to receive this item of this much. And if we simply don't have free space, it'll simply say you don't have enough space to buy, I don't know, 5 diamonds. And then what we can do, we can just take the items. I actually used AI to help me generate this method, so you can ask it to do the same. This will simply iterate through the inventory. It'll simply decrease the amount of items that we're supposed to give away, and we'll simply decrease it by how much we need to decrease. And this is a smart method because say that I'm buying for 2 golds and I have, 1, 2, 3. So this will take 1 gold here, 2nd gold here, and it'll stop. So it's very intelligent. And then once we've taken the items that we're selling, I'm going to be adding to the player the items that he is buying. So this one is actually very simple because Bukkit handles that automatically. And then I'll simply clear the trait metadata. And then I simply say, you agreed to the trade. The NPC will now give you this much for this much of yours. And the trade was finished. Okay, guys, here we go back in the game again. So I'm testing this plugin. I spawned an NPC. By the way, make sure to change your OpenAI key, replace my test key for this to work. And also be sure to only have 1 word right here. So you can't do something like Peter Pan, fisherman because, you know, the command only works with the first argument and the second argument. Maybe if you are advanced, maybe you can Google how to implement the quotes right here so that, you know, when you have quotes, it's gonna let you put multiple words. But, you know, for this quick 1 hour demo, this is enough. And we have the Peter, and I right click the Peter and it says, "Ahoy there, Matej, what can this old sea dog do for ya today?" And then here, the debug, the console line says the entire conversation so far. So it says the following blah blah blah. Human, we say hello, so it says it for us as instructed right here. And then the AI is basically tempted to, respond. And let's just say hey. And okay, this is strange. This event is not cancelled, and I believe the reason is that we have the chat listener in a different class, and this chat listener is made in a different video of mine that I did earlier on this YouTube channel, and this is simply messing with it. So the way to add compatibility is you either implement this at the very bottom right here, or you simply have a different event priority, which I have that event video about, one of the earliest videos that I made for this tutorial series. However, here I'll just knock it off and we can keep going. So I said hello, and you can see right here, this will then say the entire conversation again, the old message, and then the new message. Want to trade gold? I can say, I have gold, can I buy tropical fish? And you'll notice that these messages are different every single time. That's why it's so immersive and so powerful to have that inside your Minecraft. So can I have 5 fish for 1 gold, for example? And of course you can, you know, edit the prompt to say, the pirate is not open to negotiation or something like that. You can of course experiment with it and be smart, be creative, and I think you'll be very surprised what it can do. So 3 pieces of gold. Okay, I agree to this. And now it's going to say the offer is to trade 3 gold ingots for 5 tropical fish bucket. Let me actually test if I don't have enough. Say agree. You don't have enough gold ingot to sell 3 of them, so I have to have at least 1, 2, 3. Like this one. However, it did not take it. There's a small issue, so make sure to change the has free space, return free space is greater or equal than the amount. And now if I type in agree, there we go. If it taken 3 and it gave me 5 buckets of tropical fish. How amazing is that? We have a lovely fish right here. And you'll notice that now, you know, I can say thanks, but it doesn't register because we automatically finished. So maybe the next level is to keep going the conversation so that you can stack your trades, but I'll leave that up to you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to go even deeper into Minecraft plugin development, coding very advanced stuff, connecting with, you know, the outer world, check out Project Orient. It is a full 7-week program. We work with JetBrains. I am now a YouTube partner. You're gonna get certificates of completion. There is live coaching, and best of all, you get lifetime access to it. And the videos there are just so much longer and so much more deeper, because I have more space to explain. And of course, if you get stuck, you can join our live coaching call, and you can share your code live. That happens twice a week, and I can just help you very, very quickly. So again, I'll leave the link to the program in the video description. It contains a lot of stuff when it comes to like libraries and working with advanced topics such as menus, advanced commands, advanced this, advanced that, right? You can basically see the full curriculum. It's a 7-week course, including mini games and how to build skyblock, egg wars, and stuff like that. And the full curriculum is available if you click the link in the description. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this video. It took me way long time to build, so I would appreciate if you at least give it a nice thumbs up, comment below, and sub to the channel if you haven't already. And I can't wait to see you guys next time.